I was about to propose when I overheard her in the restroom. I'll just say yes, take the ring, and ghost him. I went back to the table, got down on one knee, and asked the waitress to accept a $10,000 tip paid for by the returned ring. The look on my ex's face as the entire restaurant cheered. I've always been a man who believes in grand gestures. When I love completely. When I commit entirely. For the past 3 years, my world has revolved around my girlfriend, Jessica. I thought we were building a future, a real one. So, I decided to make the grandest gesture of my life. Last night was our 3-year anniversary. I booked a table at Aria, one of those impossibly exclusive restaurants where the tasting menu costs more than most people's rent. In my jacket pocket, nestled in a velvet box, was a 3-carat diamond ring. It had cost me just over $30,000. It was a symbol of everything I felt for her. There was one small practical detail nagging at me. The jeweler had a strict 7-day, no questions asked, full refund policy. After 7 days, it would be store credit only, with a hefty restocking fee. Last night was day 6. I knew I had to propose that night, not just for the romance of the anniversary, but to secure my investment in what I thought was our future. The evening started perfectly. The ambiance was incredible. The food was a work of art. Our waitress, a young woman named Sarah, was wonderful. She was professional and attentive, but I could see a deep sadness behind her eyes. At one point on my way to the restroom, I passed an open service corridor and saw her on her phone, her back to me. She was crying softly. I only caught a few words of her hushed conversation. Don't know how we're gonna make the payment. Mom's next round of treatment starts Tuesday. I just need a miracle. I felt a pang of sympathy for her. It was a brief, private glimpse into a real person's real struggles, a stark contrast to the performative luxury of the dining room. I continued on to the restroom, the moment sticking in my mind. As I was washing my hands, I heard voices from the adjoining women's restroom. The acoustics in old buildings can be strange, and the voices were unnervingly clear. One of them was Jessica's. The other belonged to her best friend, who I knew she was texting. She must have had her on speakerphone. "He's definitely going to do it tonight," Jessica said, her voice giddy and triumphant. "I can feel it. He's been acting nervous all evening." "Oh my God, did you see the box?" her friend asked. "Is it big?" "I haven't seen the ring itself," Jessica replied, and then she laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound that didn't sound like the woman I thought I loved. "But the box is definitely a 2-man lift. He's so predictable. He thinks a big rock will make me happy forever." "Well, won't it?" her friend asked. And then Jessica said the words that shattered my entire world. "Of course not, but I'll play the part. I'll cry, I'll say yes, I'll take the ring, I'll post it all over Instagram, make everyone jealous. Then I'll give it a few weeks, maybe a month, and then I'll ghost him. I can sell the ring for at least 20 grand. That's my down payment for the condo I want. It's a perfect plan." I stood there, frozen, my hands under the running water. The sound of their laughter echoed through the wall. It wasn't a betrayal born of passion or a fleeting mistake. It was a cold, calculated financial transaction. I wasn't a partner. I was a mark. The last 3 years of my life had been an elaborate setup for a heist, and the diamond in my pocket was the prize. A strange calm washed over me. The heartbreak was there, a deep, cold stone in my gut, but my mind was working with perfect clarity. I walked back to the table and sat down. Jessica looked at me and smiled, a brilliant, predatory smile. She had no idea I had just become privy to her entire business plan. I saw the whole chessboard. I saw her, the fake queen. I saw the ring, the prize. And I saw the struggling waitress, Sarah, a pawn in someone else's game, a good person who actually needed a miracle. A new, much better grand gesture began to form in my mind. I let us finish the main course. Then, I cleared my throat. "Jessica," I said, my voice steady, "you have made me the happiest man in the world for the last 3 years. And there's something I need to ask you." Her eyes lit up. This was it. The moment she'd been waiting for. I stood up. The diners at the nearby tables quieted down, sensing a moment was happening. I reached into my pocket. I got down on one knee. Jessica put her hands over her mouth in a perfect pantomime of shocked delight. Then I turned my body slightly and called out across the dining room. "Sarah, could you come over here for a moment, please?" Sarah, our waitress, looked up, startled. She hesitantly walked over to our table, a look of complete confusion on her face. "Yes, sir?" I looked up, not at Jessica, but directly into Sarah's worried eyes. I was still on one knee. "Sarah," I began, my voice clear and carrying through the now silent restaurant. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation on the phone earlier. I know that's an invasion of your privacy, and I apologize, but I heard you. I know you are dealing with something incredibly difficult with your mother's health." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Jessica's smile was frozen on her face, her expression turning to stone. "This ring," I said, pulling the velvet box from my pocket and opening it to reveal the diamond, "was a symbol of a future I thought was real. I've just discovered that it is not. I will be returning this ring to the jeweler tomorrow for a full $30,000 refund, as per their 7-day return policy." I paused, letting that hang in the air. Then I looked back at Sarah. "And I would like to formally ask you here in front of everyone if you would be willing to accept a $10,000 tip from those proceeds to help with your mother's medical treatments." The silence in the room was absolute. Sarah was openly crying now, her hand covering her mouth in disbelief. Jessica looked like she had been turned to stone. I stood up, turning to address the entire restaurant. "I believe that in this life we should reward things that are real. Real struggle, real loyalty, real kindness. I also believe that some people deserve a miracle." I then turned and looked directly at Jessica, my voice dropping to ice. "And some people deserve exactly what they get. Jessica, we are done." For a second there was nothing. Then, one person at a nearby table started clapping. Then another, and another. Within 5 seconds, the entire restaurant had erupted into a roar of applause and cheers. It was a standing ovation. Not for a proposal, but for a demolition. Update 1. The moments following my proposal were a blur of surreal, cinematic chaos. The restaurant manager, a tall man with a perpetually concerned expression, rushed over to our table, clearly unsure if he needed to call for security or a paramedic. "Sir, is everything all right?" he asked, his eyes darting between my stony face, Jessica's horrified one, and Sarah, who was now sobbing with what I hoped were tears of joy and relief. "Everything is perfect," I said, my voice calm. "I just made a young lady a very sincere offer." I turned to Sarah. "I am completely serious about this," I told her gently. "I will be at the jeweler's tomorrow when they open. The money will be refunded to my account. If you are comfortable with it, I would like to make the transfer to you immediately after." I took out my business card and handed it to her. "Send me an email with your details. This is real." She just nodded, unable to speak, tears streaming down her face. I then turned back to the manager, pulled a wad of cash from my wallet, enough to cover our exorbitant meal and a generous conventional tip, and placed it on the table. "Thank you for a memorable evening," I said. Then, without a single glance back at Jessica, who was still frozen in her chair like a statue in a museum of terrible life choices, I walked out of the restaurant. The applause had died down, but I could feel the eyes of every single person in that room on my back. The second I was in the back of a taxi, my phone started to vibrate. It didn't stop. A relentless series of calls and texts from Jessica. I ignored the calls and watched the text previews pop up on my screen. "How could you do that to me? You humiliated me in front of everyone. That was my ring. You owe me that ring, you monster. I'm going to ruin you, you hear me? I'll sue you." I read each one with a detached sense of curiosity. There was no apology, no remorse, just pure, uncut rage that her plan had been discovered and her prize had been snatched away. I waited until the stream of messages paused, then I replied with a single text. "I'm sorry you didn't get the condo down payment you were hoping for. I wish you and your future ghosting victims all the best." Then I blocked her number. Next came the predictable text from her friend, the one she had been on the phone with in the restroom. "You are a sick, twisted monster, Ben," it read. "You completely misunderstood a private conversation and used it to publicly torture a woman who loved you." I replied, "My hearing is excellent, and if that's how she treats someone she loves, I'd hate to see how she treats her enemies. Tell your friend to enjoy her newfound fame. I hear the story is already making the rounds on the local food blogs." I blocked her number too. The next morning, I was at the jeweler's at 10 a.m. sharp. It was day 7. I walked in, presented the ring and the receipt, and explained that the engagement was off. The manager was understanding and processed the full $30,000 refund back to my card. The money was officially mine again. As I was walking out, my phone buzzed with an email. It was from Sarah, the waitress. The email was short, heartfelt, and full of disbelief. She thanked me profusely and provided her bank details, saying that she still couldn't believe it was real. I went to my bank, sat down with a personal banker, and initiated a wire transfer for exactly $10,000 to her account. I sent her back a simple email. "It's real. Tell your mom I'm wishing her a speedy recovery." Later that afternoon, I received one of the most moving emails I have ever read. It was from Sarah again. She confirmed the money was in her account. She told me a little about her mother's illness, about the crushing weight of the medical bills that had been suffocating her family for a year. She said my gesture wasn't just a tip. It was a lifeline. It was the miracle she had been praying for. She said she would never, ever forget it. And in that moment, any lingering doubt I might have had about my decision vanished. The money wasn't gone. It wasn't wasted. I had simply reinvested it. I had taken a symbol of a beautiful lie and turned it into the foundation of a stranger's hope. Jessica wanted to use that money to buy a condo. Instead, I used it to buy a good person a little more time with their mother, and that felt like the best deal I had ever made in my life. Update 2. It has been a few weeks since the night I've come to think of as the proposal. The immediate fallout was exactly as chaotic as you'd expect, but now that the dust is settling, the consequences of Jessica's actions and mine are becoming much clearer. Jessica's first move after realizing her angry texts were being ignored was to try and control the public narrative. She took to social media with a vengeance. She posted a long, tearful video. Her hair was a mess, her makeup was running. It was a carefully constructed performance of a heartbroken victim. In the video, she never mentioned the overheard conversation. She never mentioned the ring. She just spun a wild tale about how I, for no discernible reason, had suffered some kind of psychotic break in the middle of the restaurant. She claimed I had become paranoid and delusional, that I had stood up and started screaming at her, and that I had publicly humiliated her in a fit of madness before storming out. She ended the video by tearfully asking for privacy. During this incredibly painful and confusing time, it was a bold strategy. She was counting on the fact that no one would contradict her. She was raw. The restaurant Aria is a hotspot for local food bloggers and critics. Several people who had been there that night were in the food scene and had significant social media followings of their own. Within hours, the comments on her video started to tell a very different story. "I was there," one prominent food blogger wrote. "This is not what happened." The man was calm and spoke clearly. He gave his waitress a life-changing tip. The entire room applauded him for his kindness. Another commenter added, "We were at the next table. He didn't scream at all. He got on one knee and then publicly offered the waitress $10,000 to help her sick mother. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in a restaurant." Even the restaurant's official Instagram account posted a story. It was a picture of a beautiful floral arrangement with a simple caption, "We were honored to witness an act of profound generosity and kindness in our dining room last week. We wish our incredible staff member, Sarah, and her family all the best." Jessica's narrative was not just challenged, it was publicly dismantled by a crowd of witnesses. Her attempt to look like a victim made her look like a liar. She deleted the video within 24 hours, but the screenshots were everywhere. Defeated online, she escalated to a legal threat. I received a thick, intimidating-looking envelope from a law firm. It was a formal demand letter. In it, her lawyer claimed that the engagement ring was a promised gift, and by failing to deliver it, I had breached a verbal contract. It also claimed that my actions at the restaurant constituted intentional infliction of emotional distress. The letter demanded I pay Jessica the full $30,000 value of the ring, or they would proceed with a lawsuit. I had been expecting this. I immediately forwarded the letter to my own lawyer, a man who eats frivolous lawsuits for breakfast. He laughed when he read it. His response was a work of art. The letter he sent back was terrifyingly professional. It stated, point by point, why her claim was baseless. First, no gift is legally considered given until the recipient takes possession of it, which she never did. The proposal was never completed. Second, her claim of emotional distress was undermined by the multiple witness accounts that praised my actions as calm and generous. Then came the masterstroke. The final paragraph of the letter stated that if she chose to proceed with this baseless lawsuit, we would immediately file a motion to dismiss and countersue for all legal fees. Furthermore, we would make the central pillar of our defense the conversation I overheard in the restroom. The letter stated our intention to publicly depose both her and her friend under oath about their conversation. It described their plan as a conspiracy to commit fraud by obtaining a high-value asset under false pretenses, with the express intent to sell it for personal gain. The letter concluded by saying that we were confident that the details of their plan, once made public in a court of law, would be of great interest to both the media and perhaps even law enforcement. It was a checkmate. She was threatening to sue me for a ring she was planning to steal. The threat of having her entire scheme exposed under oath was too much for her. I have heard nothing from her lawyer since. Final update. It has been 6 months since I walked out of that restaurant and into a new, much quieter life. The echoes from that night have finally faded, but the consequences have proven to be permanent. The legal threat was the end of Jessica's campaign against me. She had no move left to make. Her public narrative had been destroyed, and her private legal attack had been exposed as a bluff built on a foundation of fraud. She went completely silent. The story of the proposal that wasn't became something of a local legend. For a few weeks, I couldn't go out to a nice dinner without getting a few knowing looks or a discreet thumbs up from a waiter. It was bizarre, but it faded. The story, however, stuck to Jessica. The grapevine, as it always does, provided the final chapters. Her social circle, which was built on an image of wealth and success, began to abandon her. Being publicly exposed as a liar and, more damningly, as someone who had fumbled a $30,000 payday, made her toxic. Her friendship with the girl from the restroom reportedly imploded in a flurry of mutual blame. The last I heard, Jessica is struggling. Her plan to get a condo failed, and she's still in her old, overpriced apartment, trying to maintain a lifestyle she clearly can't afford without a benefactor. She flew too close to the sun, and the fall has been a long one. But the real story isn't about her. It's about Sarah, the waitress. About a month ago, I received a letter in the mail. It was a handwritten card from Sarah. Inside was a photograph of her and an older woman, her mother, sitting on a park bench, both of them smiling. Her mother looked frail but happy. The letter was simple. She told me her mom had successfully completed her round of treatments and was now in remission. She said the $10,000 had lifted a weight off their family that was so immense she didn't have the words to describe it. It hadn't just paid for doctors. It had bought them peace of mind in the most stressful time of their lives. It had allowed her to quit her second job and just be a daughter again. She ended the letter by saying, "You turned the worst night of my life into the biggest blessing I have ever received. Thank you." I put that card on my desk. I look at it every day. People might say I was foolish. They might say I wasted $10,000 out of spite. They are wrong. It wasn't an act of spite. It was an act of redirection. I took the energy of a hateful, greedy act and I redirected it towards a loving, desperate need. I didn't lose $10,000. I spent it. I spent it on turning a moment of personal humiliation into a spectacle of public justice. I spent it on the priceless memory of the look on Jessica's face. I spent it on the sound of a room full of strangers cheering for an act of unexpected kindness. Most of all, I spent it on that picture of a mother and daughter sitting on a park bench, smiling. Jessica wanted to use me to get a piece of property. Instead, I used her greed to give a good person a piece of their life back. And I can tell you, without any hesitation, it was the best money I have ever spent. My fiancée said at her bachelorette party, "One last night of freedom before I settle for boring." Her friend posted it on Instagram. I saw it, canceled the wedding venue, and returned the ring. She woke up to 200 confused guests and no ceremony. I'm 34 and typing this from what should have been my wedding day. Instead, I'm at home in sweatpants, while 200 people showed up to a canceled ceremony this afternoon. Been with Amanda for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. Wedding was supposed to be today, Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. We'd been planning this for months with our wedding coordinator. Total cost was going to be about 35 grand, which pretty much wiped out my savings, but Amanda wanted the dream wedding. Everything fell apart last Monday because of an Instagram video. Wednesday was Amanda's bachelorette party. I had my bachelor party the same night across town. Standard setup, her friends took her to some upscale lounge downtown while my buddies and I hit a sports bar. Nothing crazy on either end, just normal pre-wedding celebrations. Thursday morning, Amanda seemed normal. Maybe a little hungover, but that was expected. She was running around doing last-minute wedding prep, picking up her dress from final alterations, confirming details with vendors. I was handling my own checklist, picking up my tux, making sure everything was ready. Monday morning, exactly 1 week before the wedding, I was scrolling Instagram when I saw that Amanda's friend Jessica had posted a video to her main feed with highlights from the bachelorette party. The video was a compilation of clips from Wednesday night. Music pumping, drinks flowing, all the girls dancing and having a good time. Normal stuff, but one clip made my blood run cold. Amanda was at the bar talking to some guy I didn't recognize. The audio was clear enough to hear her voice over the background music. One last night of freedom before I settle for boring. Got to make it count. Then she leaned in and kissed the guy. Not a quick peck, but a real kiss. I watched that 10-second clip about 50 times, trying to make sure I was seeing and hearing it right. My fiancé, exactly 1 week before our wedding, was kissing some random guy at a bar while talking about settling for boring. Boring apparently being me. I screen recorded the video and called Amanda immediately. Went straight to voicemail. Tried 3 more times over the next hour. Same result. Then I started making the hardest phone calls of my life. First call was to our wedding coordinator, Lisa. Explained there was a serious personal situation and I needed to explore cancellation options. With 7 days' notice, you'll be responsible for about 80% of all vendor costs since most final payments are due this week. The venue alone will be about $20,000. I told her I understood and asked her to start the cancellation process. We'd been paying vendors throughout the planning process, so most of the money was already spent anyway. Second call was to my travel agent to cancel the honeymoon. 7-day cancellation on the resort package meant losing about 90% of the cost, roughly 6 grand. Third call was to my bank to stop payment on the final vendor checks that were scheduled to go out Tuesday. By Monday evening, I'd worked with Lisa to cancel every vendor. Total cost of calling off the wedding was about 28 grand in vendor payments and cancellation fees. I kept the wedding insurance, which covered about 4 grand for change of heart cancellations, so I was out 24 grand total. Expensive lesson, but cheaper than a divorce. Amanda finally called me back Monday night around 8 p.m. Hey babe, sorry I missed your calls. Been running around all day getting everything ready for Saturday. You excited? Actually, no, I'm not excited. We need to talk. Can it wait? I'm exhausted and still have a million things to do this week. Amanda, I saw Jessica's Instagram video from your bachelorette party. Silence. Long silence. What video? The compilation video she posted today. The one where you're kissing some guy at the bar while talking about settling for boring before your last night of freedom. More silence. Then that's not what it looked like. I have it recorded, Amanda. I can see and hear exactly what happened. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. It was just a stupid comment. A stupid comment about settling for me, your fiancé, the guy you're supposed to marry Saturday. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it, Amanda? Explain to me how calling your future husband boring and kissing another man has some innocent explanation. She started crying then. Said she was scared about getting married, that she'd made a mistake, that the kiss meant nothing, and she'd been drinking too much. We can work through this. Cold feet are normal. Let's just focus on the wedding Saturday and deal with this after. That's when I told her there wasn't going to be a wedding Saturday. What do you mean? I mean, I canceled everything. Venue, caterer, flowers, DJ, photographer, all of it. Lisa helped me contact all the vendors today. You can't be serious. Dead serious. I'm not marrying someone who thinks they're settling for me. You're overreacting. It was one stupid comment when I was drunk. It wasn't just a comment, Amanda. You kissed another guy at your bachelorette party while talking about how boring your fiancé is. She started panicking then, asking if I'd lost my mind, how we were supposed to tell 200 people. What about all the money spent? What about her dress? You should have thought about that before you decided to test drive other options a week before our wedding. I wasn't testing anything. It was a mistake. The mistake would be me marrying you Saturday. That's not happening. I hung up. She called back immediately, but I didn't answer. Tuesday morning, I went to the jewelry store where I'd bought the engagement ring. Since it was a standard setting with a certified diamond, they agreed to buy it back for 65% of what I'd paid. Got back about $5,000 of the original $8,000. The wedding bands were custom engraved, so those were a total loss. But at least I recovered something. Tuesday afternoon, I started dealing with the guest notification nightmare. Amanda and I had 200 people invited between both our families and friends. I sent emails and made calls to my side explaining the situation. Asked my immediate family to help contact extended relatives. Amanda was supposed to handle her side, but she was having a breakdown and couldn't function. Her mother ended up calling most of their guests Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday morning, I got a call from the venue manager. Apparently, some out-of-town guests had already arrived and were asking about rehearsal dinner details. We've been getting calls all morning. People are confused about the cancellation. Some drove here from other states. I felt terrible about the guest situation, but there was nothing I could do. Amanda's choices had created this mess, not mine. Wednesday afternoon, Amanda showed up at my apartment. She'd been crying, looked like she hadn't slept since Monday. Had her sister with her for moral support. Please don't do this. I made a terrible mistake, but we can fix it. I love you. You love the idea of being married, Amanda. You don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have called me boring. I didn't mean boring in a bad way. There's a good way to call your fiancé boring while kissing other men. Her sister tried to mediate, said Amanda was genuinely sorry and had learned her lesson, asked me to consider postponing instead of canceling completely. There's nothing to postpone. Amanda made it clear how she feels about me. I'm boring. She was settling. She needed one last night of freedom before committing to someone she doesn't actually want. Thursday and Friday were spent dealing with practical details. Amanda and I had been living together in my apartment for 2 years. She moved back to her parents' house Thursday night. We had to divide belongings, cancel shared utilities, separate our finances. Amanda was on my car insurance and phone plan. Had to remove her from everything. The wedding gifts that had already arrived got returned to stores or mailed back to guests with apology notes. Friday evening, I got a call from Jessica, who'd posted the original video. I'm so sorry. I didn't think about you seeing that clip when I posted it. I was just sharing highlights from the night. Don't apologize, Jessica. You did me a favor. Better to know now than after the wedding. Amanda's devastated. She knows she messed up. She's devastated because she got caught, not because she did it. She really does love you. The kiss was just a stupid drunk mistake. Jessica, would you marry someone who called you boring and kissed other people at their bachelorette party? Long pause. Probably not. Then you understand why I can't either. Saturday morning, today, my phone started ringing early. Guests who hadn't gotten the cancellation message were showing up to the venue and finding it locked with a cancellation notice posted. The venue manager had to deal with confused guests all afternoon. Some people had driven from other states, booked hotel rooms, taken time off work. I felt terrible about the inconvenience, but Amanda's actions had made this inevitable. Amanda's been calling and texting all day begging me to reconsider, saying she'll do anything to fix this, that losing me isn't worth whatever stupid decision she made Wednesday night. But the damage is done. She showed me exactly what she thinks of me when she thought I wouldn't find out. I was boring. She was settling. She needed freedom from me. Now she has all the freedom she wanted. Update 1 week later. 1 week since the wedding that didn't happen, and the aftermath has been exactly as messy as expected. Amanda's "One Last Night of Freedom" comment has become legendary among our friends and family. The guest situation was worse than I anticipated. About 40 people had traveled from out of state and didn't get cancellation notices in time. They showed up to a locked venue Saturday afternoon and had to be informed by venue staff that the wedding was canceled. Several guests were angry about their travel expenses and lost time. A few family members called me demanding explanations. I sent the same response to everyone: wedding canceled due to Amanda's infidelity at her bachelorette party. The video evidence is clear. Amanda's mother was handling most of the fallout on their side, but she called me Saturday night in tears. "Do you know how embarrassing this was? Amanda's grandmother drove 6 hours to be here. Her college friends flew in from California. I'm sorry about the inconvenience, but Amanda could have considered those consequences before she decided to explore her options. She made one mistake when she was drunk. She made dozens of conscious decisions that night. Every word of that conversation was a choice." Sunday, the story spread through our social circle via social media and text messages. Jessica's video had been saved and shared by multiple people before she took it down. Friends were divided. Some thought I'd overreacted to a drunk mistake. Others agreed that the "settling for boring" comment was unforgivable. My family was completely supportive. My mother said she'd always thought Amanda seemed like she felt too good for me. My dad said any woman who called her fiancé boring while kissing other men wasn't marriage material. Amanda's family was split. Her parents wanted us to work things out. Her siblings thought she'd brought everything on herself. Monday, I had to deal with the financial aftermath. My wedding insurance covered about $4,000 under their change of heart provision, but I was still out $24,000 total. The shared apartment lease was in both our names with 6 months remaining. Amanda agreed to let me keep the apartment and take over her portion of the rent rather than break the lease early. We had a joint savings account for the wedding that still had about $3,000 in it. Split that evenly since we'd both contributed. Tuesday, Amanda tried reaching me through mutual friends. Had her best friend call asking if we could meet to talk things through. There's nothing to talk through. Amanda made her feelings clear Wednesday night. She was drunk and scared about getting married. She knows she messed up. She was honest when she was drunk. That's the problem. Don't you think 4 years together deserves a second chance? Don't you think 4 years together deserved better than being called boring while she kissed other guys? Wednesday, Amanda showed up at the apartment. I almost didn't let her in, but decided to hear what she had to say. I know what I said was horrible. I know the kiss was wrong. I was drunk and scared and stupid. But I love you and I want to marry you. You want to marry me because your backup plan didn't work out, Amanda. If that guy from the bar had been interested, would you even be here? That's not fair. Neither is calling your fiancé boring while kissing strangers. She tried explaining that she'd been feeling overwhelmed about marriage and had made comments she didn't mean. Said the kiss was just alcohol and nerves, not a reflection of her feelings about me. Even if I believed that, you still called me boring to a stranger. That came from somewhere real. I think you're dependable and loving and everything I want in a husband, but also boring and someone you're settling for. She couldn't argue with that because it was recorded with clear audio. Thursday, I heard through friends that Amanda was telling people I'd ruined her life over one drunk comment. She was positioning herself as the victim of an unforgiving ex-fiancé. But too many people had seen or heard about the video. Hard to claim victim status when you're on record calling your fiancé boring while kissing other men. Friday, Amanda's sister called with yet another attempt at reconciliation. Amanda's been in therapy since Monday. She's working on understanding why she sabotaged your relationship. I don't need her to understand why. I need her to live with the consequences. The therapist thinks you could benefit from couples counseling to work through this. There's no couple to counsel. Amanda ended that when she decided I was boring and worth settling for. The sister tried several other approaches, but none changed the fundamental issue. Amanda had shown me exactly what she thought of me when she didn't know I was listening. Update 2. 3 weeks later. 3 weeks since the canceled wedding, and Amanda's attempts to rehabilitate her image aren't succeeding. The settling for boring video has become a cautionary tale in our social circle. Amanda spent the first 2 weeks trying to convince people that the video was taken out of context or that I'd overreacted to harmless drunk talk. But too many people had seen the actual footage. She tried claiming the kiss was barely a peck and meaningless. But Jessica and others who were there confirmed it was a real kiss with obvious intention behind it. Amanda's narrative shifted to positioning me as unforgiving and unable to handle normal pre-wedding jitters. She started telling people that canceling everything was an extreme overreaction to a minor incident. The problem was that most people didn't consider calling your fiancé boring while kissing other men a minor incident. Several mutual friends told me Amanda had asked them to stay neutral and maintain friendships with both of us. Most said they'd try, but privately admitted they thought her behavior was indefensible. 2 weeks ago, Amanda tried a new approach through her mother. Called saying Amanda was so depressed she'd taken time off work and was barely functioning. She's learned her lesson. She knows she almost lost the best thing in her life. She did lose it. That was her choice. Don't you care that she's suffering? I care that she showed me her true feelings before I married her. Better she suffers now than both of us suffer through a divorce later. She made one mistake when she was drunk. She made dozens of choices that night. The conversation, the kiss, calling me boring to strangers. All choices. Last week I heard Amanda was seeing a therapist and telling people that losing me had made her realize how much she actually loved me. But love isn't the issue. Amanda probably does love me in whatever limited way she's capable of. The issue is respect. You don't call someone boring and kiss other people if you respect them. This week Amanda texted me directly for the first time since the wedding week. I know you probably hate me, but I need you to know that I've realized what I lost. You weren't boring, you were stable and dependable and everything I actually needed. I was scared and stupid, and I ruined the best relationship I ever had. I didn't respond immediately. Took time to think about whether anything she could say would change my mind. My response was simple. I don't hate you, Amanda. But I also don't trust you. You showed me what you really think of me when you thought I wouldn't find out. That can't be unseen or unheard. She replied, asking if there was anything she could do to rebuild trust. I told her there wasn't. Trust isn't something you rebuild after deliberately breaking it. It's something you either have or you don't. We don't have it anymore. But I love you. You love the security I provided. You don't love me enough to respect me. She stopped texting after that. Yesterday I ran into Jessica at a grocery store. She apologized again for posting the video that ended my relationship. Don't apologize. You saved me from marrying someone who doesn't respect me. Do you ever regret calling off the wedding? Every day. I regret that I wasted 4 years with someone who thought she was settling for me. Jessica mentioned that Amanda had asked her to delete the original video. Jessica refused, saying it wasn't her responsibility to help Amanda rewrite history. She made her choices. The consequences belong to her. Final update, 2 months later. 2 months since the wedding that didn't happen, and this story has reached its natural conclusion. Amanda's one last night of freedom became permanent freedom for both of us. Amanda's attempts to win me back continued for about 6 weeks before she finally accepted that I was serious about ending things. Her depression was apparently real, and she spent over a month in therapy dealing with the consequences of her choices. Her social rehabilitation never fully succeeded. While some friends eventually forgave her, others maintained that calling your fiancé boring while kissing other men was relationship poison. The video continued surfacing occasionally when people discussed wedding disasters or relationship red flags. Amanda's family eventually stopped contacting me about reconciliation. Her mother sent one final text saying she hoped I'd find happiness and was sorry things had ended so badly. 3 weeks ago, I heard through mutual friends that Amanda had started dating someone new. Apparently, she'd met him through a dating app, and they seemed to be moving quickly. Good for her. Everyone deserves to find someone they don't consider boring. Last week I started dating someone new myself. She's heard the whole story about Amanda and the bachelorette party video. Her response was that anyone who would call their fiancé boring while kissing other people clearly didn't appreciate what they had. The difference in how she talks about me versus how Amanda did is striking. This woman actually seems excited to be with me, not resigned to settling for me. 2 weeks ago, Amanda texted me one final time, said she'd heard I was dating someone new and wanted to wish me happiness. Also said she'd learned from losing me and would never take another relationship for granted. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Yesterday would have been our 2-month wedding anniversary if the wedding had happened. Instead, I spent it having dinner with someone who thinks I'm interesting rather than boring. Amanda learned that actions have consequences and that testing other options at your bachelorette party comes with serious risks. That calling your fiancé boring can become a self-fulfilling prophecy when they find out about it. The guy at the bar learned that kissing engaged women at bachelorette parties can have far-reaching consequences. His kiss contributed to ending a 4-year relationship and cost me $24,000 in wedding expenses. I learned to trust my instincts when something feels wrong and to value myself enough to walk away from people who don't respect me. I also learned that sometimes social media saves you from making terrible life decisions. The Instagram video wasn't revenge or punishment. It was just information. Information that showed me exactly what Amanda thought of me when she didn't know I was watching. Amanda wanted one last night of freedom before settling for boring. She got exactly what she asked for: complete freedom from boring, dependable me. I wanted a wife who was excited to marry me, not someone who considered it settling. I got exactly what I needed when I walked away from someone who called me boring while kissing other men. Everyone got what their choices earned them. Amanda chose to call me boring and kiss other men a week before our wedding. She got to experience life without the boring, dependable stability I provided. I chose to believe her when she showed me who she really was. I got to avoid marrying someone who didn't respect me enough to stay faithful during her own bachelorette party. The canceled wedding cost me $24,000, but marrying someone who thought she was settling for me would have cost me much more in the long run. Sometimes people tell you exactly what they think of you when they don't know you're listening. Amanda told that stranger at the bar exactly what she thought of me. I'm grateful I found out before signing a marriage certificate. The best investment I ever made was spending 1 week canceling a wedding to someone who didn't deserve me.